You're watching NeveN Gaming. Enjoy the video.
Hey guys and gals, Never here from NeveN Gaming, and studying out toward the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you with a Let's Play episode of NeveN, A Ket's Path. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. Alright. I finally reached the area reserved for the nobility when a collective cry of joy echoes from the stands. Therefore, there's no reason to hold them back any longer. I don't doubt for a moment that they're as eager to fight as you are to watch them. For their third arena fight, with 2 victories to our fellow Frostians' credit, I ask you to give a fitting welcome to Gilliant, Captain of the Frostfang Royal Guards, and Tenoch, Fire Incarnate, Ambassador of Khazal. A new round of applause resounds as Clovis exits the arena. I take my seat beside Melbourne and Rowan, who serves as the prince's bodyguard for the occasion. The latter winks at me and I smile back. However, it's not until I settle into my seat and observe the building that I feel a mixture of excitement and anxiety. This is the first time I've been to an arena fight. I knew it existed. There are always fighting grounds here and there in the country. It's a tradition for Frostfang, after all. But at the same time, the 2 Anthracans who are about to clash are not people I want to see hurt. Despite what Gilliant did to me during the competition, I feel that my training sessions with him have created some kind of attachment, even if we don't talk much. As for Tenoch, for all that he seems to love making a spectacle of himself, I don't get the impression that he's the type to fight in arenas. I'd even go as far as to say I'm worried about him receiving an injury. I don't know if he's got the constitution for this. While I'm lost in thought, several Anthracans scatter around the edges of the arena while carrying heavy vases. I realize they're wearing the usual blue garb of the clergy, but from where I'm standing I can't make out their brand. What are they doing? They're priests of Huri, and given the ambassador's powers, they're here for our safety. It's true that he nearly scorched my fur once while he was training, so I can't even imagine what he's capable of when he's giving it all in his fight. Gilliant is the first to enter the arena, and he raises his sword amidst the roars of the public. I expected him to be more reserved, but he introduces himself as I would during a show. In a way, it makes sense. If there's one place a warrior of his stature can be himself, it's in the middle of an arena. Oddly enough, it makes the idea of this fight more tolerable to me, when I imagine it as a mere performance. Then I hear the prince clapping beside me. He's completely absorbed by Gilliant's presence, looking at him with genuine admiration. I wonder what kind of connection these 2 share. Maybe it's more than just a boss-employee relationship. Either way, it's clear that they share a passion for fighting, and I don't intend to match them on that field. As my eyes are riveted on the bodyguard, the applause rings out again, followed by whistles of discontent. I didn't notice Tenoch's entrance right away, because in truth I was expecting to see the green of his scales shimmer in the daylight. But instead, I catch a glimpse of the bluish steel of an armor gleaming as a lizard appears in the arena, accompanied by 2 servants struggling to carry a huge spear. The blacksmiths have done a nice job with this armor, but is it functional? The ambassador asked for an in-between of aesthetics and practicality, so I think it'll be functional enough. Wait, was the armor specifically designed for the occasion? The prince nods with a satisfied smile. Absolutely, it was custom-made for Tenoch by Frostian blacksmiths, so no matter who wins, our country will have something to be proud of. Oh boy, this should be interesting. I think it's definitely the first time I've seen the ambassador so fully dressed, and I wonder how much of a problem it is for him. He must be burning up under there, from what little he's told me about his powers. Well, that's one big spear. I wonder how he plans to use it, considering how heavy it must be. A joke suddenly occurs to me, but I know I'd risk a diplomatic incident just by saying it out loud. The ambassador knows a thing or two about spears, even if he's more likely to polish them than use them in battle. Meanwhile, Tenoch seems to take as much pleasure as Gilliant in interacting with the crowd, even if they're far less welcoming to him. It seems that even after all these years spent in the country, he's still a stranger in some people's eyes. But that doesn't seem to affect him. Quite the contrary. The ambassador starts to speak, while a brand of air is used to bring his voice to the ear of all the spectators. You've all come here to witness the clash of steel and our blood being spilled. Unfortunately, I don't intend to give you that pleasure, because I'll make sure this fight doesn't last. The audience boos and whistles as the lizard laughs and bows. Ha! That's Tenoch for you! He then grabs the shaft of his spear and flames encircle the tip. I expected him to collapse under the weight of his weapon, but he seems to be holding it in position thanks to the powers of his brand. That's when a wave of heat hits the entire audience, and the priests are forced to deploy curtains of water that stretch from their vases. Is it really all the heat he holds all day long? I can't imagine it must do him good to release all that. Impressive. Now it gets interesting. Gilliant will never be able to hold this heat indefinitely, and the ambassador is probably just as limited by the use of his brand. So, will it be short? Oh, I doubt it. It's precisely because they're both strong that the fight will last as long as their willpower allows. If the heat still manages to reach us, I can't even imagine how much the arena has turned into a furnace for these two. As I gulp as I imagine the situation and turn my full attention back to the fight ahead. Oh, that's excellent. The Panther remains firmly on his seat while holding his sword with both hands. I don't even need to look to see his face to understand how determined he is. Tenoch, meanwhile, is the first to step forward, his spear pointed at his opponent, and when he does, he's so fast that the sand rises beneath him. Gilliant seems as surprised as I am by the lizard's vivacity, so much so that despite his feline agility, he only narrowly dodges the tip of the weapon. I was expecting him to counterattack right away, but the violence of Tenoch's assault caused him to lose his balance. It's the lizard who follows up directly by pivoting his spear towards the Panther's flanks in an attempt to strike him in the side of the weapon. As long as Tenoch's spear is at a good distance from Gilliant, I can see sprays of flame bursting along the weapon, so that's what he's using to move it despite its weight. The captain narrowly blocks this attack, but the impact sends him tumbling away this time. On top of that, the strike was so brutal that his sword flew out of his hand and slid across the ground behind him. The spectators react with amazement and fright, as if the shock had been felt throughout the entire stand. On the other hand, Melbourne seems ever more upbeat about the show he's being given. This is the first time I've seen Gilliant lose his weapon during a fight. Given the weight of this thing, it's pretty clear that it serves as a hammer as much as a spear. And as promised, Tenoch clearly intends to end this quickly. Flames form beneath him, and then thanks to them, he throws himself into the air while grabbing the handle of his spear with both hands before falling back heavily where the Panther is. This time, Gilliant has an easier time dodging the attack and takes advantage of this brief respite to retrieve his sword before returning to his fighting stance. The sand kicked up by the impact of Tenoch's blow against the ground almost conceals him as he straightens up to face the captain again. Despite the fact that the lizard has the upper hand, it's clear he's no warrior. His movements are flashy and predictable, especially for someone like Gilliant, and only his powers allow him to surprise the Panther. Even though I can't see it from here, I know that the latter was able to absorb some of the lizard's flames, even if he's careful not to use them too close to his opponent. And from my own experience, that means Gilliant won't let go until he's completely unconscious. After all, he must be strengthened by what little power he's been able to absorb. It's already longer than I thought. It's amazing those two are still standing. I hope they won't push it too far. Once again, Tenoch braces himself to charge Gilliant, his spear pointed straight at the feline as flames lick the contours of his weapon to keep it raised. Oh, man! And suddenly flames spread across the ambassador's back before rising high into the sky, forming what appears to be long wings. New cheers erupt from the audience. It seems that little by little the lizard is winning their hearts. Clearly he hasn't lost his sense of showmanship. The blast of heat coming off Tenoch lifts the sand again, which comes crashing in waves against the water walls being held up by the Huri's priests. My artistic soul can help but see something beautiful in this sight, such as its novelty. Suddenly propelled by the flames, the lizard charges Gilliant. It seems even faster than his first attack, and the captain doesn't seem to react as quickly. However, what I thought was slowness turns out to be nothing more than a trick. Indeed, rather than dodge, the feline drops to the ground at the last moment as the tip of the spear passes within a finger's length of his body. He then drops his sword to seize the shaft which passes over him, immediately cutting off the flames produced by Tenoch to hold his spear. Carried away by the weight of the weapon, the ambassador stumbles against Gilliant's lying body with a metallic clang that sounds painful just from the sound emitted. The lizard is propelled away, rolling on the ground, while the Panther holds his ribs, gasping for breath for a moment. As for the spear, it sinks deep into the ground after such a shock. The two opponents struggle to their feet, staggering as they try to regain some stability on the ground. They both look at each other and move closer, but this time neither of them attempts to retrieve their weapon. Are they really going to fight with their bare fists? That's typical Gilliant. He is trying to keep the fight fair. I'd expect nothing less of him. I suppose that makes sense, and I'd rather have the situation than see him skewer Tenoch. From where I'm standing, I can see flames igniting around the lizard's tail as he pivots to deliver a fierce blow to the approaching Panther. The captain doesn't even try to avoid the blow, he just blocks it with his arms, and to my surprise, it seems to work, even if his armor is distorted by the attack. Don't push the fight too far, Gilliant. I was so caught up in the fight that I didn't realize that all the wounds the captain is receiving right now can't be healed by Morani's priests, but his own brand also prevents him from giving up. I then raise a worried glance at the prince. Are you going to stop them? Their wish was to fight each other until only one of them was left standing. I reckon they're capable enough to stop in time. But, Gilliant... The bear frowns as he directs his gaze at the two opponents. Gilliant knows what he's doing. He's taken a far more violent jolt of power before, and he didn't kill you for it. Crossfang's violent traditions are starting to get on my nerves. So much so that I can't help but think of the expression of barbarians that our neighbors like to use to refer to us. I turn my attention back to the fight to see Tenoch accelerate a punch with another burst of flame. This attack was meant to hit Gilliant's jaw, but he deflects the lizard's fist, which crashes against his shoulder. Once again, we hear a painful sound as it seems to dislocate under the force of the blow, which is followed by the captain's cry of rage as the ambassador holds his disarticulated fingers while staggering backwards. Roars of excitement and joy fill the stands as the two warriors give what little strength they have left to prevail. But to me, this insistence on winning would be almost laughable if there wasn't so much suffering involved in this hand-to-hand combat. The Panther puts his shoulder back in place before pouncing on Tenoch, engaging him in a struggle that forces the ambassador to use only his muscles, since Gilliant's brand prevents him from doing anything else at this distance. Physically, both are well trained, but the lizard's tiredness from using his brand can be felt. He quickly stumbles to the ground, and the captain gets on top of him to keep him in place. And finally, as the Panther brings his fangs close to his opponent's throat, Mjolborn rises. Then his cavernous voice resonates thanks to the powers of an air brand assisting him. Enough! You've both fought well, but it's time to declare a winner. Rather than stand up to claim his victory, Gilliant drops to Tenoch's side, wheezing heavily. The ambassador fought valiantly, in a country that often forgets that its neighbors are not always enemies, but sometimes also potential friends. The prince sweeps his gaze over the crowd as if he could judge every Anthracan in it before he resumes his speech. On the other hand, Gilliant prevailed thanks to his discipline and training against the powers of a brand that would terrify the bravest of our warriors. Therefore, victory is bestowed upon him. Applause and bursts of joy follow the prince's announcement. It's clear that the captain's victory delights many in the audience. But as everyone cheers Gilliant's triumph, I can see that he straightens up to sit beside Tenoch and pat his chest. From here, I can't hear them, but knowing the Panther and his peculiar love of combat, I can easily imagine him giving the ambassador a few words of encouragement, and that makes me smile. Even in the face of all this chaos and pain, there's still room for a little tenderness in the hearts of warriors. However, I can't stop worrying about them. They both took quite a few blows during the fight. While I don't doubt for a second that they're already being treated, it's still something I'd like to check out for myself. I start to get up when Mjolborn interrupts me with a questioning look. What are you doing? I just want to check up on them, to make sure they're okay. I assure you they're being taken care of. There's nothing to worry about. But I know Tenoch well enough to say he probably doesn't want to see anyone right now. He doesn't like to lose. I could... Eloise, leave him alone. He'll come find us when he's better. Let out a sigh and sit back down. Mjolborn is probably right. He's known him longer than I have, after all. We spend the rest of the day watching fights, and I have to admit they're not as exciting as Tenoch's and Gilliant's showdown. However, the rest of the audience doesn't seem to feel that way, as they always seem to get more excited at the thought of warriors beating the crap out of each other. That said, the alcohol flowing through the stands probably has something to do with it. As I observe the crowd more than the arena itself, I feel as if my gaze is meeting one of the nobles. Some kind of sheep sitting in the stands that are meant for people of... Some kind of sheep sitting in the high stands that are meant for people of high birth. It's not me he's looking at. Is he staring at the prince? I turn to Mjolborn, and he seems to be defying the noble's stare. What's going on between those two? Mjolborn? What's that? Who's that guy watching you? Brias, the Lord of Kermar. I've never heard of him. He's a troublemaker, and I try to be polite. Why is he at your birthday party, then? We invite all the lords of the kingdom. That's our tradition. Watching the sheep, I see him lean over to chat with another noble, then he smiles before addressing the prince directly. In the old days, it was customary for the future king to fight in the arena during such an event. It was the ultimate proof of his warrior prowess. I therefore hope you will do us the honor of demonstrating your talents in combat as well as in the mastery of your brand. Alright, I'm actually going to pause it right there. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. Before I go, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our lovely bronze tier patrons. Thank you all for all you do for the channel. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you to our silver tier patron, Cade Silverman. Thank you for going above and beyond. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you to our gold tier patron, Trezum Guy. You're awesome. We love you. Thank you for subbing to Ultimate Tier. Anyway, if y'all want to get your names in the credits and get access to all of our Not Safe for Work contents as little as $5 already, I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!